Hello everyone. Can you all hear me? If you can, just reply on the chat. I was playing around and I noticed there's a slight delay, so it would be nice to know how long that delay is, so I'm not talking away and you're all a few minutes behind. Alright, that's great. Alright, thanks for joining everyone. This is my first time going live on YouTube. I still haven't figured out how to hide this or keep this chat box somewhere nice and small, so it will be covering a portion of the screen. I will try to keep it hidden from where we will be processing on. Alright, so yeah, I did try to go live yesterday. That didn't work out. As you can see, this picture behind, that was the one we were processing live. We ended up doing it on Zoom, and yeah, so sadly I didn't do a screen record, so no one can see how that session went. But if I just show you, we basically started with an image like this, and this was the foreground, and this was the tracked sky. Yeah, so there's the sky, the foreground, and we ended up with something like this, which was way better than the original image that I had processed. I have to shrink Photoshop and Lightroom, it seems, so the chat is still visible. Alright, anyway, it's a shame that everyone didn't make it yesterday and that YouTube didn't work, but here we are tonight, and we will be processing another image. Tonight the image we will be processing, I've got the sky shot here of Orion, constellation Orion, and it's a wide field Milky Way shot. The area is very light polluted, Bortle 4 to Bortle 5. And I'm not the best still at processing Orion, so it's going to be a challenging shot trying to process the sky. Here's the foreground. I mean, you can see with a long exposure and high ISO, the horizon was totally blown out here. The moon was actually just setting around then. And yeah, here it's a little less exposed. This is about 4 or 5 hours before Orion was in place. And yeah, this was taken actually just before the weekend, on Thursday, 2 days ago. So it's going to be a hard shot to process, I think. Not as easy as yesterday's one, but here we are going to begin with it. Normally with my workflow is I always begin with the foreground first, and then we move on to doing the sky. Obviously the sky takes much longer. We will be processing tonight in Photoshop and PixInsight the sky. I'm not sure which one is going to do a better job of processing the sky image, but we will see. For anyone else that's here watching and they cannot send a message on the chat, basically you need to subscribe in order to have access. So if you want to interact, and basically it's Q&A, you can ask me questions, I'll answer at the same time. I will try to cover any topics that you ask about, and also if you have any advice or tips or suggestions, you're all welcome to input. Yesterday during the live session, I was teaching everyone what I could, and everyone was free to also put in their own input. and I basically let everyone also either agree or disagree with what I was doing, and we were changing it accordingly until we ended up with the final image. So it was mainly my edit. Here we go. Hi Mike. But yeah, Mike was there yesterday and he put a lot of input into yesterday's edit, so a big thanks to him as well, because he showed me a couple of tricks too. So I'm open-minded here, but this is for everyone that wants to learn something else. Maybe you know what I'm doing already, or maybe I do it slightly different, and yeah, we're gonna see. So let's begin. Let's not waste any time. I have done a HDR of the foreground, something I'm also not an expert working with, and I did that because there are some brights over here and along the horizon that are blown out. Let's move along to just need to check my images. They're all rather alright. We need the 14mm shot because we're working with a 14mm sky, and that is this one. And this is actually not a HDR, I believe. No, so we don't need to work with that. I've done a stack here of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, series 7 multiple images, so that I can stack them and reduce the noise. So we should be able to raise these shadows, something like, obviously not that much, but slightly, which I will do afterwards. But the first thing I normally begin with, I will actually raise the shadows a bit, and that is so we can get the color balance quite well. And this is a great tool here. I always use this to get an idea of what my foreground, or in the other case sky, should look like. Sometimes it does a good job and sometimes not. Personally, not liking that. I think I will just do it myself manually, and I think I will go, I don't want to go too cold, it looks weird. I don't want to definitely be too green, move it purple. I want some kind of balance. This is color balance for sky and foreground is always personal preference. But people have been asking, how do you do your color balance? Well, now I will just focus on trying to make the foreground as neutral as possible, because that would be my advice to everyone where to begin with. And normally I bang up the saturation to the max in order to get my foreground neutral, and like that I can see what is too blue or what is too warm, green and purple and so on, and then I can find the balance, if that makes sense. So not too warm, not too cold. You need it roughly balanced and the same. Not too green, not too purple. Looking at somewhere like that, and then I balance out that saturation again. So if we see what we began with, okay, with the shadows written, obviously it's not a huge difference, but this is a modified camera, so normally it is a red warm purple tone going on, which you can slightly see there. And basically now that we've I increased the saturation and then tried to balance the color balance, white balance, you see it's looking more neutral, and that is how I get a neutral foreground for the white balance. But personal preference, probably going to go slightly, maybe something like that. There's a slight change, and bring back the shadows down. I just need to go to the bottom, because okay, it's not on, that's good. Sometimes now with the new mirrorless cameras it tends to turn on automatically, and I'm not a fan of that, so I always make sure I turn it back off, and anything I do in here in lens correction I like to do it manually. The next step is to increase the shadows, obviously not too much. Go somewhere, I think I'm going to go something like that, and definitely reduce the highlights because of that burnt out horizon there. I mean, that is super bright. I should have done a HDR for this image too, because we have some burnt out bright patches also here, burnt out. This is going to be horrible to process, but we are going to see. So I might even see if the whites do something there, ever so slightly, but it is burnt out. I do not like that. Alright, and this is personal preference, but I'm going to add a tiny bit of vignetting, and the only reason I did that is because I feel like when I raised the shadows, I didn't need the shadows here, honestly, raised in the center of the image here especially. I wanted it, so I'm going to use that a tab, and that's basically it in Lightroom. And then I'm going to copy those settings, of course, and paste them to my series of images. Alright, so an issue we're going to have tonight is that there is reflection of stars, and due to the time difference, where I shot the sky 4 or 5 hours later, we're definitely not going to have those stars in the reflection, so I'm either going to blur out and have no stars at all, or we're going to have to try and basically composite in the stars in the reflection, which will be a pain. Not sure if I do that, we'll see how we're going on time. Anyway, I'm gonna open these layers, as layers in Photoshop, and then I can do the stack. Let's not waste any time. Now don't forget, it is blowing out the horizon there, in between that V and the valley, and it is burnt here too. I am aware of that. It's not a nice sight. Should have definitely done a HDR. I did that with my 20mm, but we are not going to process that shot tonight, as I'm saving that one. That's my new lens. I just bought the Sigma Art 20mm, mainly for vlogging, and yeah, I just tried that out for some Astro. So I've still not processed any images from what I've taken with it. I'm saving those for myself one evening. Alright, so highlight all the layers, convert smart object. If your camera did move in between the shots ever so slightly, you can always go to edit and auto align those layers. Otherwise you'll end up with a blurry image when you stack it. Alright, and the next part is a layer, smart object, stack mode, mean and medium. I'm going with medium today. Alright, so the next part is to zoom in, and I'll just do a before and an after. So that was a stack of I believe 6 images. You can see what noise reduction does through stacking, how much noise it reduces. That's only 6 images. If you've got more time, you can do 10, 15 or as many images as you want, both for foreground and sky. Obviously the more you do, the more you can heavier you can process your image, and the less noise you have. That did a pretty good job, and there's no blur, I believe, in the image, so the camera did not move. Just so you know, to take this shot, basically we were sitting on some kind of stone, huge stone rock that's like fallen on the edge of this cliff there, and it's probably not that hard in the day to get to, but climbing onto this with 30 kilos on your back in the middle of the night in the dark proved to be quite challenging. And yeah, there was, you can imagine the drop down each side and behind, and if you have a chance, I'll share the location later. You can have a look on Google Earth, and you can see just how horrible it is. This location, definitely a scary spot to be, and I would not advise anyone to go shooting there in the day, and especially in the night. But yeah, I did find this place looking around whilst I was scouting around for locations, and yeah, I guess no one has ever done any Astro here, and I wouldn't blame them because it's heavily light polluted, but I still thought it's worth a try. And I've actually shot this place 2 times now. The other day we shot Orion, and Orion sent us here, and the last time, the end of last month, the Milky Way was still visible. I mean, it was only about 10 minutes, and the core was setting around here. I still haven't processed those images either, but I'm excited to do those as well. So yeah, literally got in less than a month an Orion shot here and a Milky Way shot here, and yeah. Right, so the stack is done, and I'll rasticize that layer for the meanwhile. You're always free to go back into camera raw and do like if you want a further like slight noise reduction, maybe something like before, after, just ever so slightly. You can even do a further adjustment if you want to raise the shadows more, which I'm not going to do. I'm going to leave it like it was. You can also play around again with the white balance if you're not liking it, and I may even see, it's slight. I could reduce that slightly, but let's see what that did overall. I think I'll reduce those highlights even more. Yes, it is horrible there. I think I'll leave it like that. Alright. So before, after, basically just try to reduce those highlights even more because they're horribly burnt out. Alright, I'm quite happy with the details, to be honest. I don't feel like it needs any more, but there is something you can do. If you duplicate this layer and change it to overlay, go into filter, other, high pass, you can put in this radius of pixels. I'm just going to show you what this did. For example, here on the rocks, without and with. This is personal preference if you want it or not. Basically it's like increasing the clarity, I guess less destructive than Lightroom. I don't like to play with that in Lightroom. I don't always use this. Sometimes I do. If I have a nice subject in the middle of the foreground, for example, let's go back into Lightroom just real quick. And this picture yesterday, I'll show you. Before, you can see it's rather soft, this little church, and then afterwards, you know, there's a lot more detail going on. I've done a heavy noise reduction and then increased the details. I'll go to the original and just show you if you use clarity, for example. I mean, this looks a lot cleaner doing it this way than using the clarity slider. Don't know if you agree, but certainly think it looks a lot cleaner like that. So that is why I do it that way. So off, on, and to be honest, I might keep it actually. But what you will notice is along the horizon it creates some kind of like a bit of a halo going on. So basically what I do is add a layer mask and grab the brush, my bad, change to black, and I'm going to basically remove just from here so like that. I'm not going to do it perfectly. Anyway, I've done that, and then what I'm going to do is let's look where, you know, you can see the line. I'm basically going to feather it. Okay, I'm just going to feather it. You know, now the line is visible down here. I'm going to feather it until that line is no longer visible. And if I turn off, on, all we need to see is it's smooth, you know, is the transition smooth. I don't care about the sky up there, I just care about the horizon. And right now, the horizon is not affected anymore. But if you see, there's still a bit of contrast there, you can see a difference. So I need to feather it a bit more. It's something you have to play around with until it's... I'm going to leave it like that anyway for now. And then obviously save this in case the computer crashes or something. I will do some final, you know, touching up later on. Maybe darken it a little bit over here. I feel like it's a bit bright there. And then maybe we'll fix the reflection, since now we have star trails going on because of this duck. But we will leave it like that for the minute, and now we will go and work on the sky. So these are the images you we're working with for the sky. Of course, first thing I check, I do not want that on. Okay, that's perfect, that's fine, it's not there. And first thing I begin with is basically using that dripper tool to get the white balance. And you can do the same thing here, increase the saturation. And you know, it's too green, too purple. Where is the balance? Maybe there. It's too blue, it's too yellow. Not like that. You see, import, very yellow. And now we have a neutral looking image. It may decrease the highlights very slightly just because of the light pollution. Not sure if I really should do that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Right, and that's it. I want to copy that, paste it to all. Now there are two ways, or many ways, that you can stack your sky images, and that's for me I have two ways. I either stack in one of these softwares, they're from Macintosh, Starry Sky Stacker or Starry Landscape Stacker, or we can stack manually in Photoshop. Now I've already done some tutorials on YouTube which show you how to stack manually. It's pretty much the same method as stacking foreground. You just have to lighten all the layers on top and check that they all match, that they align well, and you'll have to do a manual alignment in order to get them aligned. Sometimes you're lucky if you have perfect tracking, you won't have to move any of them, but if you're slightly off, then you will need to manually align the images. Anyway, I'm going to export these as TIFFs, and we are going to stack it in Starry Sky Stacker, basically to save some time. Right, so we select those layers. I'm going to open them in here. You can stack in whichever software you prefer. I'm on Mac. I find this software easy to use. And let's stack them. And I'll just zoom in. I want to see before, after. Slight noise reduction there, and it's obviously, you cannot see, but cropped out any artifacts that we can't see anyway. Definitely did a noise reduction there, we can see that. And save this image. Close that. And now we are going to open PixInsight now. Don't worry if you've not got PixInsight. I will be doing the the Photoshop process in a bit, but we will begin in PixInsight. How does it sound different, Mike? Does it sound worse? Could be my computer breathing loud today, so alright, so we've got the image here opened up on Pixel site. Let's just I guess we cannot make it any smaller than that, but that's fine, I'll have to do. Yeah, the fan that's running is my computer. Sorry. Alright, that's great to know, Andy. I'm glad you can still hear me. If I need to talk louder, then just let me know and I will. My daughter is sleeping in the room next door, so I'm just trying to keep the tone down. Okay, we've got the image in here. Everybody has their own ways of processing in PixInsight. I'm still getting the hang of things, and I'm trying out something different each day. Originally, before, I was processing with the workflow. I would begin by using StarNet and removing the stars, but I did change it. So I'm just reading the chat. I did change my workflow now, and basically I do a tiny little stretch to the image, to the whole image before using StarNet, just so the stars get a little stretch. So yeah, literally, I think I will use a arc and stretch just to begin with. Just so you know, guys, we got a pro. We got Jacob Satner here in the room, in the chat. He's watching, and he's a master already at PixInsight, so he can correct me if he needs to. Don't know why, but I like to click protect the highlights. Sounds good. Okay, very light. Before, after, super light stretch. Okay, it's done. Close that. And yeah, now we go to StarNet. Create a star mask and hit begin. So we'll have to wait a couple of minutes. Alright, so whilst we're waiting, what we're going to do, actually we're not going to do it. I was thinking we could process the same stacked image in Photoshop simultaneously. So every time we're doing a process here in StarNet and we need to wait, we could jump into Photoshop and just process alone the stacked image. But I don't want to confuse you, so I'm going to edit this one image here in Photoshop, in PixInsight, and then when I just do the noise reduction, which takes some time, we will then jump into Photoshop and process the stacked original image alone. That way we can see the difference between Photoshop and PixInsight, And what actually happened yesterday is I processed the same image in PixInsight alone in Photoshop, and then we compared the two, and it turned out that we liked something in both of the images. So I ended up using both processed images, one from Photoshop, one from PixInsight, and I merged them together in Photoshop and basically took what I liked from each image and made it into one. And that was the first time for me doing it like that, and I think it turned out great. So we're gonna do that tonight too, just to have options. Alright Jacob, you'll have to talk English, because talking like that with from a linear is like talking Chinese to me, because I am not an expert, not even a, I'm still a beginner when it comes to these terms and stuff with processing. Always confused me. Someone says linear or stretched, or I never seem to understand it. All I know is I do what I do, and I end up with a result that I like. So yeah, Jacob, if you could write in the chat what is alinear, and explain the difference, that would be awesome. Awesome for me and awesome for everyone watching. We're almost getting there. It's a bit slow. Alright, we're slowly getting there. There we go, finally. Alright, so I have my stylus image. That stylus image, I'm going to save it right now. Okay. Minimize that, put that to the side. Don't need that right now. Here, Jacob has given us an answer. Well, I'm not. Well, I'm not sure how my image is already pre-stretched, because I didn't touch it in Lightroom or Photoshop, in Lightroom or in the stacking software as well. I mean, that's what it says it could look like, stretched. Let's see. Alright, Jacob, well, I hope it's not a bad thing. I would like to try that out sometime as well, but right now I'll just do what I've been doing for the meanwhile. Now yeah, there's, you can see some red nebulas in that Barnard's loop, Rosetta, California Nebula, a few bits going on there, but yeah, images heavily light polluted, so could probably try to do background extraction and see if it does a good job. I'm going to just try for now automatic one, see if it does a good job. Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. The other option is you can do dynamic and basically do it manually, which can also do a better job. So before, not bad. I made a mistake, a rookie mistake. I need to do subtraction here. The correction is subtraction. I basically want to remove the light pollution. And looks horribly bright. Horribly bright. Anyone agree? You agree, Jacob? That is horribly bright. Okay, subtraction. Alright, not sure this will work, but let's see if using brightness limits may make a better job. Literally this is just a guess now, but when you first begin PixInsight it can be like that, playing around. Sometimes you learn something and sometimes you don't. Again, personally it looks horrible. See what a stretch version of that looks like. Right. Let's see what Jacob said. Yeah, so I should have done that right, Jacob, before the initial stretch. So Jacob knows what he's talking about. Let's just go back for a minute. I'm going to save this starless image. Starless. Okay. That way we do have a copy, and I'm just going to go back before the stretch, right at the beginning, and now I'm going to try the same thing, basically on the image before I did anything to it. But I'm having a feeling that based on what Jacob, oh there we go, Jacob, that was a good recommendation. And yeah, basically the only reason I've been doing that stretch lately on images with the stars before. It was because the other images were not light polluted and I didn't even need to use the background extractor. But yeah, I faced that problem today, and thanks to Jacob I figured out that when the image is too bright after doing that background extractor, that is the issue, because I've stretched the image. So right now, yeah, we've moved that light pollution out of the image, but we have our stars back in the image. So I'm going to close that, and I'm just going to guess, and I'm going to ask Jacob, since Jacob is the one to ask. Instead of running this through StarNet again, is it possible that I process now my image here and I basically select mask and I select that star mask, yeah, and then press basically invert mask, and then I process on that, and then I'm guessing that I would basically process the whole image, stretch the image but not stretch them stars. Am I correct that that would work, Jacob, or do I need to run StarNet again? What I can do is see. It's really open. What that looks like, what happens. If I'm correct, it is not stretching the stars. It's a bit hard to tell, to be honest. Yeah, the stars are different now that I moved the light pollution, correct? Alright. So, yeah, we removed the light pollution, and now let's begin again with StarNet. Bam. That was what I wanted to do. Stretch the image real quick. Okay. Right, light stretch, and now we do the StarNet. Whilst we're waiting, we will begin quickly in Photoshop with the original stacked image. Opening Photoshop, and then for those of you that don't have pics in sight, basically you can just see how I would process the image in Photoshop. So I got my image here. First thing is I will do a star reduction on this image. So I made a duplicate of the layer. I went to channels, I selected RGB and dropped it in the marching ants. Select, modify, expand by 1, modify, feather by 0.5, other minimum by 0.4 pixels. I tried using the standalone version. To be honest, I didn't like it. Okay, select, deselect, turn that on and off, and then you can see the star reduction. Doing a star reduction like this can, just zoom in, can damage your stars. As me and Mike were discussing yesterday. I think I'll leave it there. Personally, this is not damaging it. If you find it's damaging your stars, then you might need to reduce the opacity. But like that, it's not reducing much. And yeah, I begin directly with a light stretch to an S. And we add another. And I think I'll just play with the colour balance quickly. I just wanna. That was it, halos. We're getting halos. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go a tad blue. Definitely not purple. And before, after. Now here's too orange, you can't really see Barnard's loop, so I wanted Barnard's loop to pop out of it. The next part is I will probably do hue and saturation. Select the drop down, and I'll select the California Nebula, which is Magneta here, and increase it. And it's also increased Barnard's loop and the nebulas inside Orion. But I will change the hue a bit because a bit more to red, because otherwise it's purple. Hue and saturation is way too high, so we remove it to about there, on, off and on, and it's increased the nebulosity, the reds, the saturation, but what it's done is it's increased the whole image. You can see there, which we don't want. So yeah, go to color range and do a mask on this. Remove everything that's been selected from before. Some tiny selection going on there. Sampled colors, and I select there. I need to reduce everything around the range. And add these small patches in where with a little bit of red around there. Here, it's not very. And you can just play around with that until it looks smooth, playing without. Okay. Before, after. So saturation of the nebulas is increased slightly, and you can duplicate that if you want and increase that. Obviously that's extreme. I might keep that one and reduce the opacity slightly. I might just leave it like that, you know. It's not extreme, but it's showing. And take note, it's Bortle 4, Bortle 5. Like, place is light polluted, so I mean it's hard getting some details out just on Photoshop. You can also do a hue saturation. Don't know if this will work. Select down there those yellows, and sometimes you can do a slight adjustment, and basically, obviously I don't want to do that, but you can reduce the light pollution slightly. So I have to play around with. You might even want to add it. So I like that, to be honest. I don't mind that bit of the actual light pollution, because for the blend later on it's going to be natural anyway. I mean, who does that, adding, increasing the light pollution? And probably a bad idea. But it just looks a bit dull right now down at the bottom. I will stretch this image one more time just to see how it looks. So I'll keep it slightly tough. Even try changing the contrast a bit. What I did show everyone yesterday is, if I want to increase this contrast here in the lanes and the path of the Milky Way, I'm just going to put it full right now, and then select color range, which is just going to make my life easier, and deselect all that. And select the center, and just basically kind of draw a line. that contrast should be. Oh, we're going to decrease that. That's a bit. Just do that for a minute, and then decrease that again, and then just now it's extreme, just somewhere like that, before, after. Now it's not perfect, but we have tried to put a bit of contrast in there. And it's also decreased the brightness too, to be honest. And I'm not going to do that, that's for sure. So we could change it to luminosity and see if that sometimes playing around it can change everything for the best. Not happening. I'm going to decrease it. I'll just keep it slightly. Obviously you can use dodge and burn, but I'm not really a fan of that, to be honest. I'm going to leave it like that for now. I'm not going to play around with it anymore on here. I'll just save that copy for the moment. And let's go back to PixInsight, and now that we have our stylus image, and we can this time begin by, I'll save my stars, star mask, and we can begin stretching this image again. You can see what we might get out of it. It's not a pretty image. That light pollution has really killed this image. Right, begin with arc and stretch now. Already open. It was a bit fast. I was supposed to click that. Go back. Let's reset that. It's way too strong. Yeah, another question for Jacob. Seems Jacob's giving a lesson tonight. Why is that so bright? I feel like after we did the star net, and that light, I feel like it's just bright, super bright, lacking contrast overall. do one more stretch. And that's it for arc and stretch. Maybe not. See if one more. I think the previous one didn't go through. Right, okay, there we go. Arc and stretch. The next I will do is histogram transformation. Preview. Not the best looking image, that's for sure. I may just quickly see if I can do a color calibration. It may make it look better. We'll see now. No, so before, after. Well, it removed the strong blue hue, so I may leave it. Jacob's probably right. Last thing I'm going to try is this quickly, and then we'll take it over to Photoshop. I'm not going to play around on it anymore. Working with the core of the Milky Way, working with Cygnus, very noisy version for today, and I can do a noise reduction on that later on. Sky fixed. Open these in Photoshop. Right, so we've got two versions, Photoshop, PixInsight. Now, we've got this horrible shadows going on down here, images like bright overall here, not much contrast, but still we can see all the nebulas, and the path of the Milky Way looks a bit better, whereas here it's a bit, you'll see a lot of stars and a few colours. I'm just going to merge all that into one and take this over into the other image just for a minute and see if we can somehow merge them together, because I do like the nebulas here, but I prefer the white balance here in this image. Both images are not amazing at all, that's for sure. Alright, so right now we've got that versus that. Definitely going to take that, this version. I still want to work on it a bit more. It's still too bright. Could try a stretch, probably not gonna. Check the. I'm gonna leave it with that. I'm gonna leave it on. Just gonna try something out. Make a copy. So I've merged all the layers into one layer here. Made a copy and hit luminosity on that one and this one. Do soft light. I turn it on, off and then on. Basically, I've got a little saturation going on, like increased color boost, you can call it. Is it needed? Not really, but it's because it's increasing them blues, which I don't like. Could turn down the opacity a bit. Like, I'll leave it on for now. Merge everything once again, go into camera raw filter. Because I didn't get to do the noise reduction in Photoshop in Pixelsight, I will do it now. It's definitely not a good noise reduction, but it's better than nothing for now. Obviously, if you go crazy, you start to get these tic-tac guys turn up in your image, and they look horrible. And you can see them now. If I reduce that, it looks better without them. So I will just do a very light noise reduction before, after, or just a tiny amount. I will not. And then you can also actually do a you can play with the white balance again if it's needed. I'm actually just going to leave it how it was. It's looking a bit weird down here. I think I will try to fix that. Bobbins. Let's see some of the yellows. I'm gonna just slightly do that so it's a bit less orange. If you can. Increasing the stars instead of star reduction, star production. Basically, I'm increasing the stars. I don't think, it's personal preference. I don't need that. I'm just doing it slightly because it's still looking bright around here. Just a tiny bit. And let's remove that now. Leave that alone. And I'm just gonna check out that one more time. And if I increase that slightly. I probably won't keep this. If you want to increase that bar loop just a bit more, then you can do that. Like this image, I can see it is not a beautiful image. Definitely not one of my best Orion shots, but let's just turn off all this and just remember what we're working with. We're working with a heavily light polluted image. I mean, Bortle 4, 5, and I'm not the king of removing light pollution. I'm not the king of Pixinsight either. So getting detail out of this is not something that's easy. Yeah, and Mike's right. You can see all over the image I got this horrible haze and clouds, which is not helping either. So let's save this image anyway, and then try and blend it. Save it as a TIFF, and I'm using sky replacement to blend my sky onto my foreground. We could do a manual blend, but a lot of people are interested in how to use this sky replacement, so we are going to use it. Cancel. Let's keep that on like that. Always good to have an option. Let's try and blend this. So it's a beautiful foreground. I'm not sure that sky is going to look good on it. Hit sky replacement. And let's add in this sky, 14mm sky there, let's open. And we could lose that beautiful cygnus there, does not match because of the program. Alright. Open. There it is. Just lower it back into place. The Orion is actually quite low at this time. This is taking a little bit before it sets, and it should go roughly about there. I'm gonna remove the fading of the edge. Let's just zoom in for a minute. So you can understand. If you don't fade the edge and you have stars in the foreground image, basically, sorry, if the edge is faded, you will see stars from the layer underneath, which you don't want. That's why basically always there are no stars visible here because the horizon's blown out. So I normally remove it. If you see like that, it's basically, it might even look better, and it's fine. There's not actually any detail going on here that I'm afraid to lose, so I can actually keep it. It's not damaging my Orion, the Barnard's loop, so yeah, you can play around with shift edge, but we don't need to here. If we zoom in, okay, we can see there, that's probably from the, see, from that fading edge. Let's just see what happens when I see what's happened here. That I will have to fix manually myself. So I'm going to leave it like that, and then I can basically manually fix this myself. So yeah, you can only see half the sky, so camera size, increase the height, so about 8,000. Go into sky, grab the brush, white to reveal, good. And just reveal that sky and bring it back in. And there's still a bit more sky missing. There we go. Let's just crop that image. Crop. And go into the foreground there and use the quick selection tool. And we want to select the foreground. Here we can work on ourselves afterwards. I want to see how good that's selected. Okay. And basically I want to remove any sky that was added. I'll show you now what I'm talking about. You need to be real careful because there, if you notice, always watch out with that. But I just want to remove any stars or any part of the sky that has been blended into the foreground. Sometimes using sky replacement it does that, and you don't want to see stars in your foreground. We'll come back here in a minute and fix that. And you see I've got the tone of the sky on my foreground here. I'm just doing this roughly, it's not perfect, so select, deselect, that should be fine. It's not perfect, that definitely needs some work. It needs to be that is not perfect. No one will probably see that that far. I'll reduce the opacity here so I can actually see where I'm working. I'm literally just doing this roughly. I'm not doing it perfect. If you want to perfect it, then you can when you're processing your own images, but I'm not going to waste all that time doing it today. And then we have roughly, it still looks a bit bad because it was blown out there, but roughly we have a blend of foreground and sky, but that's an easy one. So the next is the reflection basically. We have some blurred stars here, so question is, how can I fix that? I do not want to see them stars, so I'm probably going to blur them even more. What I'll probably do is just select the rough just a rough estimate of where these stars are blurry. make a copy of that layer, and we can try even a Gaussian blur, or let's have a look and see what. I'm just basically increasing it so I cannot see them blurred stars so much. You see, to increase it ever so slightly. I want it to blend in everywhere. It should be okay. That's something also you need to look into, how far you go, because you have this difference there, if you can notice, if you see that. So you could always just see if this works. So that's how I've reduced it. I'm trying to make the blend as natural as possible, and it's not really getting it anyway. Basically you would have to select it as clean as you can to avoid any lines there, but you get the gist of what you need to do, how to get that perfectly. And then well, you could clone in the stars basically now. I'm just going to copy that sky layer for a second, paste it here, remove the mask, flip vertically, come on, see, copy that again and bring that back for the minute. Press lighten, Command T, let's start to move that. Obviously it's lined up with the image. And if I'm correct, then I line it up like that, and just press enter for the minute. That path should be correct roughly of what would be visible in the reflection. Yeah, I'm doing like the reflection now of the stars. Basically what you've got to do if you have not shot the reflection at the same time, which is the case here in this image, and that's if you want. I'm going to turn off that layer for the minute, and begin again with this. I'm gonna this time select over the trees a bit. But cut basically a bit into the foreground. I'm just doing a rough estimate. Well, it's not impossible to shoot the reflection. You would need to be shooting the reflection within minutes after you shot the sky. And basically what I did at this location was, because it was a scary spot and we didn't want to basically stand on the edge of this cliff all night because it was dangerous, we shot our foreground and then climbed back up to where it was safe to shoot the sky, because yeah, it was just not safe to stay there. So I just selected like that over the trees now, and I clicked back on my sky layer, and I'm going to create a mask like that. And then I'm going to go through these on here to just see what would, what looks roughly best on the water. Obviously can't use that, that's way too bright. It needs to look, natural. Color dodge just a bit. Just leave it on normal and decrease the opacity. But like, let's just say something like that, and then basically we're going to do a feather, and we needed the feather. It's way too intense. It's feathering, as you can see over to here. So basically, I'm going to remove that feather for a second. Select the brush, and I don't need that much. I just need a tiny bit. You'll see why in a second. One sec, Mark, I'll read your comment in a minute. I can always go back. Yeah, it could work, but it might not as well. Let's try this quick. Personally, let's just turn up the intensity so we're going to see that blend. Reduce the opacity quite a bit. I'm going to do curves on top of it. Mainly want to darken it. So I think I'll just put this layer on, the brightness contrast, and it was better with the curves then. The next thing is, it's a reflection. Okay, this is a steel reflection. Yeah, that feathering is certainly not perfect yet. You're right. You can see here. Let's try what Mike said. Let's see if we can fix that. Refine edge. Let's see if it does it. Doing a terrible job. Yeah, that's what I thought. Where is it? Feather. Select the mask. Let's see how it does it. Yeah, it's messing up. It's going on. Oh, that's why. I don't know why it changes back. It's a pain. Yeah, I know. So, yeah. It's quicker like that. There we go. Let's hope this works now. Come on. Okay, it did not. Did not do as wanted. I have a feeling what we need to do is go back a bit. Around to here. That's where we were. And you see. Yeah, I agree. Add layer mask. Let's see. Might do it. Might do it, Mike. It looks good. See if we can add this tiny bit in here. Oh. And I'll remove what I did before. Yeah, delete. And now I'm going to create that mask again. And then select the mask. Yeah, this thing just doesn't want to work today, does it? It's going to do the job. It's not doing the job, Mike. It's failing cancer. I'm gonna feather it now, and that looks terrible. That looks terrible. Me, I do not like that at all. But I mean, if you degree a lot, it's not so bad. There is a slight overlay, that is obvious. But I mean, I don't want them stars like looking like that. That is unreal. I just want them faintly in the view, and I will probably do a motion blur just to make it look a bit more, like slightly more natural. Okay. I mean, this lake was still, so yeah, something like that. Still a bit bright here. I'll probably darken the area around here. Probably use just dodge and burn, to be honest. Let's use burn. Increase the size and just work on that horizon a bit. 4%, and I just want to ever so slightly darken the horizon. Just a bit, just makes it look a bit, a small area down there. Image definitely needs some, also here. It needs time to work and play on. Write your sky with, kind of looks better without the sky, to be honest. Such a terrible process sky because of the light pollution and those the haze and the clouds. And let's just remove this. We could just go with naturally, I say naturally, a basic process on Lightroom where we kept the light pollution. I'll just show you what that looks like. So let me see if we can see. Copy that command view. Alright, just give me a second. Just so you can see the difference here, Photoshop sky versus some crazy hybrid, weird looking process from PixInsight and Photoshop. Personal preference. Natural one looks a bit basic. PixInsight, well, yeah, we got a lot more detail. It's not perfectly processed, but we dealt with haze, clouds, Bortle 4, looking into Bortle 5 light pollution, which personally I think is quite challenging. And I mean, I use no filters here. I could have used a light pollution filter, probably would have saved me a lot of hassle, but I didn't. I just went for it naturally. So yeah, that's it. Definitely not the prettiest of all images. You can do some fine adjustments if you've got an image as such. If you want to darken over here or leave it, maybe I will leave it that bright because we've got this small little town here lighting up everywhere there. You could work on the foreground, for example, with some dodge and burn. I mean, personally I don't have to work with it that much, but that's going to look horrible. Some people might find, oh, that's too dark here, and you know, that is extremely dark, 52%. But let's just give you an example. You want to brighten up the area here, and then you want to darken it down here, to keep that focus, you know, on the centre of the image. You can also do dodge and burn on the sky, darken it around there, and brighten it in the centre of the image, for example. Note, you should play with 4 to 5%, not what I've just done, 52%. You can see how strong that is. You definitely do not want to do that. Maybe a tiny bit here, that was extreme. Could probably do with them shadows being raised very slightly just here. It's a little bit dark. Before and after, just like that, just a tad. And maybe darken it around here. Even fix them highlights there, burn the highlights a bit. Obviously I could zoom in, but you get the drift. You can play with that dodge and with these tools here, dodge and burn, but use low exposure. Do not go crazy, and there are people going crazy with their Milky Ways. You see stuff like, the show. Excuse me, wrong later. There are people doing this for their images, and that is obvious. You've played with dodge and gone crazy. Don't do that. If you've got to do it, then use it lightly. But personally, I'm not a fan of it. I'll leave it for now. Yeah, but that is it. It was a horrible sky image to work with. Definitely not one of my favourites. Does anyone have any suggestions? Any questions? I still have a little bit of time, so we can even just jump into another image and do a real quick process. If you want to see some basic stuff with the Milky Way core or something. Yeah, I'm happy to send the raws out if someone else wants to challenge me, because that picture was horrible to work with. I mean, I had such high expectations for this image, but obviously with the quality of the sky was just definitely not as I imagined it could have been. No, I'm going to leave the image like that. I'm not going to go any more. Personally, definitely, like I said, not my favourite image, but it is what it is. We are faced with challenges, and that's how I tried to challenge this image. I'd probably start all over again, to be honest, and try to battle at it again. I took a risk by bringing this image up tonight for the first live session, but yeah, we tried. I mean, a lot of people are shooting in the wrong Bortle zones that don't have a clear, and they might be facing the same kind of issue. They're shooting into light polluted skies and they're wondering, why don't I have contrast in my images? Why can I not see those details? And well, you saw the image. Here's the image, what we began with. So if your image looks like that and you're wondering, why do I not see all those details? Well, you can get them details out. It might not be the prettiest looking image at the end, but there are details there. You can withdraw them, you can get them out, so it is possible. It seems the only person with a question right now is Mike. I'm just going to head over to my website, because basically on my website let's go over to it. I have a page with resources. Let's click over here on the resources, and basically these there's a few things on it, a bit slow at loading, but these are the tools I use for processing, for planning. Clear Outside, Google Earth, Planet Pro, absolutely favourite, #1. I use Sky Safari Pro 2 for locating objects in the sky. Light Pollution Map, which is actually already plugged in on the Planet Pro, so let's see. Planet Pro, this is my absolutely #1 and favourite app for planning. It would be great if I could open the app. if I could open the app here on the computer. It's weird. I can't open it like that. if I could have shown you, if I could have opened the app here, then I could have shown you how to use it. What I can do, if you have that request, is you can just drop me a DM, remind me, and I will. I'll do a screen record and then send you a copy of that. Alright, I'm glad that was helpful, Ted. I'm just going to show you real quick. In Photoshop, how I process an F2A image, just real quick, because it's a lot different than processing Orion. For example, rotate left, edit and add Photoshop without any stacking or anything. I'm just going to show you the difference, because processing Orion is nothing alike. I mean, I'm not going to do the style reduction now, but let's say I'm going to do a manual color balance by myself, something like that. I'm done. A quick curves, don't go too high. Maybe adding some contrast. Reduce the on this one. Remove that. Go into the hue saturation. Select them reds of Cygnus, and the magnetics. Increase them. Change the hue. Go over into color range. Remove that. Select those reds. Add a little bit here, got some red down there. Finished, okay. It's just a rough thing. Go back, lower that slightly. Obviously don't want to go extreme, just slightly. But whatever, it's a bit different, we're working in it's less light polluted in this place. This is a Bortle 4, going into Bortle 3, so you can see the difference. And then working with that picture of Orion, it was horrible. I mean, there we did quite a few stretches and played around with some different actions, and it makes a whole difference, the quality of sky. And if you see what we did yesterday, basically, and it's a real shame that yesterday's session did not go live, because if you see the final image, and you saw it, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw it. I mean, I was real happy with the results that we got from the Pixel site and Photoshop. We got really nice colours and contrast going on in Cygnus, and this is literally the sky as a stack of 5. So yeah, real shame that it didn't go up live. Hopefully next time when I do the second episode, I'm not going to take a challenging shot such as this one. I'll take something a bit more fun and easier to work with, and yeah, hopefully you can all learn something then too. I hope that you learned something tonight. If you got any comments, any remarks, something that was missing tonight that I did not go through, then just drop a comment in the comment box. Hit subscribe, and yeah, stay tuned, and next time we'll be back for another episode. And thank you everyone for joining. I wish you all clear skies, and yeah, happy shooting.